What's going on, my Comic Chat Army? We're here with my buddy Seth.
What's up, everybody?
Yep. And he is going to do us a comic consultation while we interview him about the Geek Out Show.
A little sketch cover.
Yeah.
/ interview.
Mm-hmm. You want to tell them where you're from?
Well, I'm from Baltimore, Maryland.
All right.
Currently reside in Fort Myers, Florida.
Yep. And go listen to the Geek Out Show.
Yes, Geek Out Show, everywhere podcasts are found.
Yep. And what made you want to start a podcast?
It was actually me and a friend of mine were kind of just wanted to just kind of talk about just geeky stuff. As just, it was mainly meant for just us, just as an outlet, because there's not a lot of people that we hang out with that like the same stuff we do. So we were using it almost as just like an outlet to talk about the latest action figures and anime and stuff that was coming out.
I got a paper clip on me.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna leave it there for style.
There you go.
When did you first get into podcasts?
Listening or doing the
Either
podcast?
Both.
I started doing the podcast about 2 years ago. I've been listening to podcasts for a while now, like probably 5 years. Just it helps pass the time at work. So, listening to just anything you like.
Well, what was you listening to at the time?
Kevin Smith, all the Kevin Smith stuff, Joe Rogan, and then just a lot of action figure podcasts. Some, what's really interesting, like D&D podcasts. Like I don't play D&D, but it's cool to listen to the people tell the story. So I kind of listened to some of those as well. So it was cool.
What's your worst and greatest memory of doing a podcast?
My worst was we had a co-host, and he just was a baby, big baby. So we had to get rid of him. The best, I'm going to say, is just all of our listeners. I never thought in a million years I'd have 3,000 listeners listening to me a week. That's ridiculous. That's a ridiculous amount of people.
I wish I had 3,000 views a week. That'd be great.
You'll get there. You'll get there.
Yeah. Next question. What advice would you give to somebody that's wanting to start their own podcast?
Just do it. I know that's so cliche, right?
It is.
I'll just do it, but it's so true at the same time, because that's all I did was just start it, and then from there you just keep going.
All right. What's your favorite hero? And what was your first comic book you ever gotten?
My favorite hero is the Incredible Hulk. I don't know. Just always like the Hulk. Can't even tell you why. I'm not an angry person at all. So I can't relate. I can't be like, oh, I relate to him or nothing like that. And my first comic book was an X-Men comic book. I couldn't even tell you which one it was, but back in the day, I used to get 7-Eleven had comic books. And when I got my allowance, first time I ever got an allowance, I went to 7-Eleven and bought a Slurpee and a comic book. And ever since then, I started buying comic books.
Do you remember what that comic book was?
X-Men something. Couldn't even tell you. It wasn't uncanny. I want to say it could be uncanny. It was definitely in the earlier days. So this is probably like freaking 1994.
So, some random number. Then I know you're into action figures. If Hasbro or one of the bigger toy companies come to you and asked and said, hey, we'll design a figure of you or anything that you want, what would that figure look like?
Me. Well, I wouldn't get one of me, but anything I want.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think, because they've come out with a lot of stuff lately. Anything I want. Man.
I want to action figure myself with like a Kung Fu grip.
Of yourself?
Yeah.
With Kung Fu grip?
Yep. Cody Johnson from Comicchatauthority with Kung Fu grip.
I wouldn't. I wouldn't go myself, but recently they announced a GI Joe line coming from Hasbro. So I want to say,
well, it doesn't have to be Hasbro, it's just one of the bigger toy companies.
one of the bigger toy companies. Okay, so there is a Hot Toys. I'm into Hot Toys. They basically make 1/6 scale, super realistic. But every once in a while they do a comic version. I want a comic version of Incredible Hulk from Hot Toys. That would be the one I'd go for.
Nice. All right. What's the most expensive toy that you've always wanted but could never find or afford, but it'd make your collection great? I don't know.
So like
There ain't no answers on
an
hand.
elusive toy.
Yeah, what toy have you always wanted that you couldn't afford? Yeah.
Are we talking about like initially it was super expensive, or on a secondary market it's super expensive?
Either or.
Okay, so I collect a lot of vintage, and there was droids, a droids line from Star Wars that came out, and C-3PO is the one I wanted from that line. It is like $1,000 mint on card right now.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and it was so limited back in the day that it was just hard to get a hold of, man.
Couldn't spend $1,000 on a toy.
Oh, hell no. I wouldn't, even if I had it.
Right. Could you tell us about your toy collection now?
It's massive. It takes up a lot of space. But I don't know. I love it. I love collecting. It's mainly I collect everything, but a lot of Master of the Universe, a lot of vintage Star Wars, and Marvel Legends, Mythic Legions. Pretty much what I'm into right now.
Have you saved any toys from your childhood to now?
No. Growing up, I didn't really have money for toys, but you know what? There are a couple that I've had when I was a kid that I went back and rebought. So it's pretty cool.
Through this whole journey, have you had any mentors, or who is your biggest support team?
For the podcast, or just in everything?
Just everything that you've wanted, art or your podcast, or who's your support team?
Well, my wife, she's my support team, obviously. And then I want to say James from Scout Comics, because he, and this is more recent. My wife's always been there, but James more recently. And my co-host Gail, because without them two, I wouldn't be able to do the stuff with Scout and obviously the podcast. And then with everything else, my wife is just always there.
Shout out to Seth's wife.
Shout out to my wife. Love you, baby.
How did you come up with the name of the podcast?
Me and my boy were just sitting on the couch. It's funny, my boy Mike was the one I started with, and now he's not even on the podcast anymore. He just couldn't do it. But we came up with the name we were just shouting names back and forth for hours.
Right.
And the Geek Out Show just kind of stuck. Like we were thinking nerd, geek, pop culture, this, that, and the third, and then eventually we just kind of came up with it. It was just a lot of brainstorming. So yeah.
Kind of told us about what's going on. Have you tried making any other podcast before the Geek Out Show? Or have you been part of any other podcast before yours?
No, I was never a part of any other podcast before my own. But after I did start our podcast, we joined the Raw Live Unedited Podcast Network. So he's been really cool helping grow the podcast. Rich El Sinestro is his nickname. Yeah. So you go to rawlivepod.com, little shameless plug, and find a whole bunch of other great podcasts on the network, including ours. And I've been on most of those, so it's like one big family. Just like I come on your podcast, you come on mine, and it just
right. We was on the Geek Out Show, so go down and deep down in the videos and check that out.
We're gonna have you on again. We had a special comic episode that we had you on, so that was a lot of fun.
We'll pop that up here somewhere in the video. Could you tell us the future about the Geek Out Show and some of your projects that you got going on that you can tell us about?
For the Geek Out Show, really, we're just trying to obviously always get more listeners, more ears on the podcast. We're approaching episode 100 in a couple weeks, so that's pretty cool.
Approaching our 100th video on here too.
So it's like a milestone. As far as the future, just more swag, like, stickers is a big thing. You love stickers. Who don't like stickers?
And T-shirts,
like stuff like that. We're going to be at San Diego Comic-Con next year. We're going to have like swag bags and stuff like that. Just kind of want to grow it, to be a staple in everybody's, podcasts. Listening people. I don't know.
Right.
Whoever listens to the podcast, we want it to be a staple in their, playlist. Like every week, we want them listening to the Geek Out Show.
All right. Well, I know. So tell the people, because you're on Scout Comics Month with the interview about Scout Comics. Let's talk about that.
Well, okay. So basically, a little backstory. I met James a long time ago when he was doing Solar Flare. Mm-hmm. So I met him when he did an exclusive cover for Record Trader, which is a local comic shop. Go check them out. Ralph, he's an amazing dude. You still haven't been to that comic book shop yet, have you?
I have not.
We're going to have to go one of these days. But he had an exclusive cover with James' Solar Flare book, and it was with Jamestown Publishing, which was James's self-publishing. He's self-published.
Right.
That was his publishing company. And then he was telling me when I met him that day, we just kind of chopped it up, and he told me about the deal that he was doing. He had 2 people he was going with. So I didn't even know. He didn't even know that I was going to be Scout. But made a friendship with him. And then when he did go to Scout, it's been years since he's been with them now. I kind of just always been there, wanting to do covers and stuff like that. And then eventually they opened up the headquarters. I went to the head. I had on Alex Banquita, who does Headless. Shout out to him. And after I did that, I gave James a listen. And I was like, hey, how come you guys never did your own podcast instead of having all your creators go to all these different podcasts and people always have to go to all these places to get the content when they can just go to one place, Scout Comics and Entertainment, podcast. Mm-hmm. And he was like, would that be something you'd want to start? And I was like, yeah. So we started the Scout Comics and Entertainment YouTube channel. Go follow. And a lot of plugs, a lot of shout outs.
Yeah, we'll put a link down in the description for all these plugs.
Yeah, go follow that. But we started the podcast on that, and then he recently said, hey, we need more designers and editors and stuff. Would you be interested? I said, yeah. And he said, all right, cool. So I'm a designer for Scout Comics.
Is there any covers that you're doing for Scouts you can tell us about? Or is it all under lock right now?
No, it's not even under lock. It's more like it's not even a thing yet. I'm trying to do one for Headless, but I think they actually just ended. So I think I missed the ball on that one. I want to do one for James. It's really just asking the people. I've kind of asked everyone. They're all cool with it. It's just a matter of, are they going to do another book or another, or when are they going to do the book?
Gotcha.
Like James is Long Live Pro Wrestling. The Ash Can has been out for a while, but number 1 never came out yet. So I'm hoping to do one for maybe that book when it does come out.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap up the interview, and I'm going to use this cover as a thumbnail. Do you want to show it off now?
Yeah, there's a little bit of it. It's not done yet, but
from Red Angel. If you haven't seen that review, go check it out. This is the book that we reviewed, and they sent us a blank cover, and we thought it'd be cool to get Seth to do us a consultation while we interview him. Never done it before, so he's the first one breaking it in. And any shout outs you want to do?
Yeah. So shout out to Geek Out Show. That's my podcast. Go follow. Go listen everywhere where podcasts can be found. Leave a comment. You know how important comments are on iTunes. RawLifePod.com. Scott Comics and Entertainment Podcast YouTube. or Scout Comics and Entertainment YouTube. Go follow them. And that's pretty much it.
All right, hit the notification bell on here so y'all don't miss any of the other Scout artists and creators that we got coming on.
You don't want to miss it.
All right, guys. Seth kicked it off for Scout Month. Let's go.